Let's do this. Look at that. It actually worked for a change. All right. We're broadcasting live at YouTube. If you want the show link, well, check Facebook or Twitter, all those great places. But with me here virtually in the virtual studio, words are hard. You know what? I launched a course at like 1 a.m. this morning and got up at 7. So brain power is not a thing right now. But who cares? Alex Venn is here for a follow-up podcast. Alex, how you doing? It is good to have you back. It's been a while. You were on one of the early shows, weren't you? Oh, something like that. You were on one of the early shows, and I'm just trying to remember how we met. Oh, you were doing, that was when Jen Garrett was still doing Mo Mondays London. I don't know if I was speaking that night, but yeah, I'm just trying to think. But I remember that you were doing instrumental music. You were doing your loops, actually. You were doing loop-based music live, and it blew my mind that you were able to do that. And really clever too. Like the music that you were the music that you were doing was just to set the stage for everybody here. Alex would lay down like a bass beat, and then he would press a pedal, and then he would start to lay down some more instruments, and then press a pedal, and all these would loop and build into an actual song. Like, it's really unbelievable. It's really quite something, quite artful to put that together in a live setting. Like, how do you, before this whole virus struck, like, have you been doing a lot of those live performances? Right. You know what? I just realized I just made a slight mistake. Give me 1 second here. Okay. Speak again. Uh-oh. Yeah, I think I made a serious I made a serious boo-boo. Hang on. We are live right now on the Windows, we're live right now, and it's going well. Give me 1 second here. I gotta reroute I've basically got some virtual audio stuff here, and I gotta reroute everything because for some reason Zoom has decided to use the wrong device. Oh, it's fantastic. So it's there's literally been no sound going to... Actually, hold on. There's literally been no sound going out to the world, which is fantastic. Silent pop. Oh, yeah, it's because the wrong speaker is selected. Okay, so I think I'm going to go to that one. All right, give me a little voice sample. Okay, let's try that one. Let's see if that one works.
Hello, podcast.
Hey, look at that. Okay, we're good. We're professionals. We know what we're doing. So that was a thing. We screw it. Let's roll the intro again.
Okay. Why not? Anything goes.
Oh, we're good at this. Oh, the complexities of modern software. Always, I just finished writing a course about this. Always check which device is the one that's recording. Whoopsies! So we've been silent on the live stream for the past couple minutes. So for those of you watching the live stream right now, it's me, it's Alex Venn. Alex Venn is an incredible musician who lays down these awesome loops and ambient tracks. Oh, we're good at podcasting. It's 4:30. It's 4:30 on a Friday, and none of us have been out in the world for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm feeling that.
You're feeling the isolation vibes?
Yeah. Well, it's good for. I feel like it's good for creativity, but it's not good for maintaining sanity or any kind of sanity.
That's an interesting way to put it. It's good for creativity, but it's not so good for maintaining the sanity. I wonder if there's an inverse relationship between the two. What do you think?
I would say. Well, I mean, people have like argued whether creativity and there's a link between creativity and mental health, but I don't know if scientists have really been able to prove that. It's kind of just vague studies. I don't know. I don't know the research on that.
I'd love to see what kind of neuro research exists on that, because that seems like I don't know. I've felt that a little bit too. Not to say that I'm losing my mind here. I work from home normally, so this isn't too different than normal. But just the idea that not being able to go out to a coffee shop, not being able to go out to events, like it's getting to me. I'm I don't know. After this is all said and done, like I'm not much of a hug person, but I want to just hug everybody.
Right? Yeah, I'm missing hugs. I'm missing, like shows, community events, all kinds of things that I think none of us are going to take for granted after this. Like I don't think I really did before, but I'm going to really just love when we get back to some kind of semblance of normal.
It'll be nice. It'll be real nice to see people again. However, that being said, you've been taking up a little bit of live streaming. Talk to me about this. What have you been doing on the live streams?
Yeah, well, I had my first go at it. I think it was last weekend. I think it was Sunday. Sunday, and it was with the London mindfulness community, and I just did a really relaxing kind of ambient meditation concert where I just kind of, by myself meditated for about an hour and live streamed it from my room. And it was an interesting experience. I've never done anything like it really before, but I enjoyed it. It really, I certainly felt a lot better after. So,
So you live streamed a meditation experience. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So when you talk about live streaming a meditation experience, the first thing that pops into my mind is somebody who's saying, now you'll feel this, now you'll feel that. Is that what you were you actually saying, giving prompts on the stream of what listeners should do, or what did that look like? What was it like?
Well, yeah, it was kind of like a guided meditation, like those. If you go online, they have those like guided meditation scripts that people can listen to. So I was just using my voice and kind of like guiding people along. Yeah, so it was basically set to my music, and I kind of improvised it as I went, and just wherever I was feeling like going, I took it, and I like doing things like that where it's just very in the moment. Yeah.
Interesting. So my mind went on just a real weird tangent all of a sudden as you're talking about this guided meditation, this online experience. Is you have put out a few albums.
Mhm.
Have you ever done anything like that on one of your albums before?
No, I have not. But I'm seriously considering releasing at least something in the next few months of that nature, just because I feel like so many people right now are like cooped up, and people having trouble like just relaxing or like sleeping even with everything going on. So I feel like having something like that for people to help them in some way, I think would be really cool. So it might be something. I've definitely thought about it since the live stream. Actually, I started thinking, maybe this is something I can like record and produce for people to enjoy during these times. But yeah.
Because that, I don't know, my mind thinks about that and thinks that would be absolutely awesome to have right now as somebody who knows what they're doing, can help guide somebody through a meditation. And just, I feel like the ambient tracks that you're able to lay down as well, it's the perfect complement. They seem like they would work together perfectly. You've got the musical side, but you've got the meditative side down too.
Yeah, it was well, the live stream, it went well. I had a few technical difficulties, but it was my first run at it. I think yeah, I really think recording it, having that control over everything will really help in the in the process of producing it. Because when you're live streaming, there's so many more things that can go wrong. Um, and it was my first go, so the tech, I'm still learning all the tech and stuff, but yeah, recording something like that is definitely something I want to do sooner rather than later for sure.
Now, when you were doing this live stream, were you using all of your own? Were you using your own music as part of it?
Yeah, I was. So I was just routing it through my digital audio workstation, and because I wanted to have it like input, right? I didn't want it coming through speakers or anything, so I routed everything through my computer, and yeah, I kind of like played my keyboard, and I set up some different automations for the tracks that I was able to improvise live, and yeah, it was fun. I definitely felt more zen afterwards.
Wow. So there was there was some level of customization even while you were going live.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So, like, just to indulge my nerdy side for a second here, like, what program were you using to put this all together?
I was using this free program called OBS. I
Right.
think
Oh,
it's
yep.
yeah. I think what does it stand for? Something.
Open broadcast software.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I was using that, and it's great because I mean, you can't beat free things,
Hmm.
but it's one of the best supposedly out there, and I guess it allows you to like route like literally anything through it. So I routed my digital audio workstation Ableton, which I use through it, and I routed my mic through it, and um, yeah, just everything, my keyboard through it. So
Right.
and then I sent all that to my phone, so that because I didn't want to. I needed a camera, and I didn't want to I didn't have a camera, so I used my phone for that, and it was a really really neat way of doing it.
How did you incorporate your phone into it? Or did you route it all as like you streamed to your phone and then how did you fit it in?
Yeah, there's this really cool app. There are a few apps that exist now, but you can actually use it converts your phone into like a video camera
Ooh.
that is connected to your computer. So it's a really I know I just discovered it just like doing my research the last week or so, but
Tell me
uh,
more about the fabulous prizes. I got to know about this. What is this one?
well, what I was using was called IV Cam.
IV Cam?
Yeah,
IV Cam. Use mobile phone as a PC webcam. Oh, no way.
yeah. If you've got a stable connection, it's a um, pretty cool alternative to having like a camera.
Well, not just that, but it's a way to actually have like the webcam that I'm using on the computer right now. I mean, this is just an old Microsoft webcam cinema. It can only do 720p, so when you blow it up to 1080p, it looks like garbage. But
Yeah, very.
and the camera in this phone's not too bad. For those listening in later on, I'm holding my phone up to the camera for Alex to see, and so just imagine a phone with cameras on it. So just imagine a phone. This is the extent of what I can do when I take people through a guided meditation. Just close your eyes and imagine a cell phone. Everybody's suddenly relaxed or very tense.
Yeah, depending on who's trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah, really. That is super awesome. So you turned your phone into a camera. You're doing this live streaming, and so you've done this. How many times have you done this so far?
So live stream just once.
Yeah.
Um, I'm hoping to do more, but I do really want to figure out. There I had some tech issues that I'm going to want to just smooth over before I live stream again because I want it to be better. So
Well, what were some of the issues that you ran into? Why don't we talk about them on air, and if that helps other people, then sweet.
very true. Yeah, yeah. Everyone right now is trying to live stream. So,
Oh yeah.
um, well, one thing I feel like it sounds obvious, but I'm sure there are people out there who don't check before they go live. Is your your mic volume?
Yes.
If it's too low, then it's going to be difficult for people to hear you, and that's no good. Um, what was the other? The other thing was, I guess, just like the video quality. I had a difficult time uh, getting like proper video quality with the lighting.
Mm.
So that's another thing I'll have to work on smoothing out. But it's kind of fun. Like it's fun, kind of putting these puzzle pieces together. I would have never thought of doing things like this before COVID. So
Well, isn't it amazing too that like with stuff like Open Broadcaster software, OBS, and just all the apps that we have available, that we can basically become our own broadcaster. Like you think about the power that we have right now, that we can just like, oh, we feel like live streaming something. Oh, screw it, let's go online and talk about live streaming stuff, and we can just do that and switch between sources and do all sorts of cool, fun stuff. Like this was, I think 10 years ago, this was not in any, you would not be able to do this yourself.
no, it's really the democratization, right, of all like basically all technology out there is becoming, so accessible to people. And I don't know why it took me so long to get on board, but I'm starting to get on board now, so I'm pretty pretty glad about that.
Well, it's a ton of fun too. Like there is a pure fun element to just saying, I'm going to go online and I'm going to just do something for the world. No matter, like, even if like one person listens in, that's still one person that just decided to listen in to you. I mean, that's got to feel
Yeah.
amazing, eh?
Yeah, totally. And there's just something to be said about, broadcasting. I don't know. It's very spontaneous to me. Like I spend a lot of time with music, and music is often a very meticulous like art form. So something like broadcasting is very refreshing to me. It's like just kind of gets me out of my head.
Right. I never thought about that. That music, just how meticulous, because I imagine there's a lot of attention to detail that you have to pay attention to, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I love it. I mean, it's a wonderful process, but it's definitely a different state of mind to be in from broadcasting and doing stuff like that. I feel like and same with performing. Performing is a very different state of mind than like creating music as well.
So performing is, but you're still creating those, you're still mixing those loops together when you're on stage. Isn't there a little bit of spontaneity to that? Or is it you're doing a set that you've practiced many times and basically just replicating that for the audience?
I'd say a bit of both. It really depends on the kind of set I'm doing, but um, no, I don't like rehearsing too much. I try and stay away from that. I'm a believer in kind of winging it sometimes.
I guess that's part of the fun of doing the online broadcasting too, is to an extent we are kind of winging it. We've done a little bit of prep where you know what kind of where we want the conversation to go, but you still don't really know until you get into it where things end up.
Yeah, mystery. I love it.
It's a lot of fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm loving the live streaming. It is, and it's so social too, because now that we don't really have these events to go to or coffee shops or anything like that. At least this way we can connect and get those conversations out into the world.
Totally. I think it's just gonna get better from here on out too. I mean, just look at virtual reality and everything. I feel like in the next 20 years, meetings like this are gonna just get too real.
Oh, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Now, before we went on air, you also mentioned, and I'm really, really curious about this. You mentioned that you've been working on a book.
That is right.
Alex Venn is going to be not only a musician, but an author.
Fingers crossed.
Dude, no fingers crossed. You're going to write a book. Dude, if I can write a book, you can certainly write a book. I mean, talk to me about this book. Tell me what you've been working on.
Yeah. Well, the past year or so, I've been doing a lot of research. Started doing research. Basically, I wanted to understand why music is so powerful. Like why music can help us and kind of even heal us. I know from my firsthand experience with music, it's been an incredible tool for me in regulating my emotions and in my own mental health. So doing this research was very important to me. And yeah, that's what I've been writing and researching for the past year or so. And it's amazing. It's priceless what I've learned. And I'm excited to share it.
That is awesome. So understand why music is so powerful. I recall we did touch on that a little bit in the last podcast we did together, but I'm curious now in your own words, so after reading all of this material, synthesizing it and making it your own, What's your conclusion? I mean, I guess without spoiling the book, as soon as it's ready, I want to be the first to read it. But without spoiling things too much, like what is it that you think makes music so powerful for us?
Yeah, it's a huge question, but I mean, judging from what I've gathered, I really feel like uh, music is something that is about people, right? And about community. It's about people expressing themselves to each other, and I think I think it's how socially transformative music is and can be, that yields so much potential. And I'm seeing how even in my research around practices in music therapy, how much of not only an individual tool it can be, but also a vehicle for like social and community change. It's remarkable how much we don't know about music still. But yeah, I it's without giving too much away, but like yeah, I think that's a summary. It's socially transformative, and I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons it can help so much.
So socially transformative. So what exactly do you mean by socially transformative? I can think of a couple of songs that represent generations, but talk to me about socially transformative. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So without getting into too much detail, I had begun doing research around one particular uh, music therapist who did their practice in South Africa, and uh, just reading her accounts of practicing in places that were, either war torn or just full of violence, very violent communities or regions. She gave her firsthand account of how music was able to kind of in her musical relations with her patients, she was really able to kind of rebuild uh, the community one person at a time, so to speak. And so when I say socially transformative, yeah, I think it seemed from at least doing research on that particular professional that she was witnessing a kind of transformation before her eyes. What was taking place while she was uh, helping these youth in South Africa. So
That's hugely powerful. So socially transformative literally means socially transformative. We're watching, you're able to use music as a tool to move people, to get them to change their ways.
mhm.
That's
Yeah,
super powerful.
yeah, it's amazing, and that's one of the areas that I'm most, I would say, well, I have a lot of areas of interest. It's one of them that I'm most interested in it, um, because there's just something to be said about uh, the social and the community aspect of therapy and how that should play out. So
Right. Because my mind starts thinking about research I've done into psychology and specifically the psychology around persuasion,
mm.
i.e., getting people to do what you want ethically. That's an important bit. Like, there are a lot of powerful tools of persuasion, but if they're used incorrectly, they can be very dangerous. But I definitely I have nothing to back this up. I'm not claiming to be an expert in music theory. I'm not claiming to be an expert in music at all. There's something very deep and emotional with music. You ever talk with people and they mention that you can name a song and they can just envision where they were in life when they first heard that song?
Yeah. Yeah, my parents.
I get that with video game music.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like there's a
I
lot
never
of really powerful video, and this might sound silly, but there's a lot of really powerful masterpiece video game soundtracks out there.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
and I can pinpoint certain parts of my life to like, oh yeah, I was, I can listen to a track and immediately I can put my mind back to where I was at that point in my life. And it's just have you researched any of that for your book?
I have done a little bit of research, yeah, in that area, mainly pertaining to memory, faculty of memory, and how it seems that in um, a lot of speech and memory disorders, the musical part of our brains is never it seems to be intact. So, because you talking about how you're transported right back to that particular musical moment. It reminded me of research I was doing around Alzheimer's patients, and what they have found is that yeah, Alzheimer's patients actually, while their memory continues to degrade, they're able to actually recall musical memories with very little difficulty.
Isn't that something that it's even as our memory degrades that you can still. I've heard about that research too. I can't
Hmm.
say anything about it with any authority, but that's always been a fascinating one. Has any of your research shown why that we seem to keep the musical faculties yet our memory can go?
Yeah, I've I've done a little bit. It's still a topic. It's a huge topic. I'm thinking though, in particular, there's a I don't know if you remember the Tucson tragedy.
No, tell
This
me
is
about this.
going way I'll bring it back. But so the Tucson tragedy happened in Tucson, Arizona back in 2011. I believe it was 2011, and it was a mass shooting in the U.S. And a Gabrielle Giffords, she was I believe she's a politician at the time. She was shot in the head. She was shot in the left side of her head, and she lost her ability to speak entirely. So she developed aphasia, which is a speech disorder, and uh, miraculously, she began working with a music therapist who found that she wasn't able to speak, but she could sing her words. And this was actually an integral part of how she learned how to talk again after this brain injury.
Wow.
Um, mhm.
So she couldn't speak her words, but she could sing them.
Yeah,
That is beyond fascinating. And then through working with this music therapist, she was able to actually regain the ability to speak,
yeah,
like
yeah. It's
complete.
uh, I know that 2 years later, she had like a conference of some kind. So she gave a conference. So yeah, I think she's doing much better. and her recovery was incredible. How fast she recovered.
Wow. That's just that's mind bending that you could somehow lose your ability to speak, but still be able to sing the words and regain that ability. That's so bizarre that's got to change. That must have changed the way that you thought about how we actually produce sounds out. Like the fact that, because I would think that if you lost your ability to speak, that would be tied to your ability to produce sounds at all. I mean, that'd be my natural conclusion. Apparently, I'm wrong.
Yeah. So, from my understanding, general understanding, I believe so. The part of her brain responsible for speech was severely injured, but the part that contains our musical memories was not. It was left intact. So I think it could have been. It may have been a special case, but regardless, it was very interesting to me, and it did change. Yeah, it did change the way I thought about music. It seems like there's parts of our brains that it's not the same as speech. It seems to have different roots.
So speech and music seem to have different roots in our brain, which means, but that's amazing how our brains would actually develop two completely different areas to handle what when you abstract it out, fundamentally is the act of just producing sound.
Mm.
But that's fascinating that we've somehow our brains have two different faculties for doing that that at some point must interact with each other. Because like we don't have two mouths. You know, we've got our tongue, we've got one of this airway component system, but yet there's two different areas in the brain that deal with producing sound. Whoa.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Why would we have what? My brain now goes to what's the evolutionary advantage to that? Because think about that. Like, typically with what we have right now, like when I listen to, have you listened to this? You might not have. He's a programmer. His name is Mark Miller. And he talks about something called the biology of user interface.
Oh, that sounds cool. No, I haven't.
Oh, it's totally awesome. I'll send you some links. But basically, one of his core ideas is that when you look at our user interfaces, when you look at the human body, everything we've got today has developed because it gave us an evolutionary advantage. In other words, it was the most efficient way to do something. And one of the topics he talks about is this idea of why do we have eyes that move around? Like, why can we move our eyes? Because if you think about it, like if we wanted to have we could have a super wide field of view and have everything in focus and just have one giant eyeball. But for some reason, it was more efficient for us to develop basically two eyes that can move around, that have a narrow field of vision. But somehow that was an advantage in an evolutionary sense for us to do. I'm thinking, if we hold that to be true, that that everything we have, there's an evolutionary advantage to it. What would be the evolutionary advantage to have one part of your brain that handles the production of spoken word, let's say, and another area of your brain that handles the production of music, tones, basically?
Well, it's a very fascinating question. I do know that one of the things that people think is that music and speech were kind of uh, two things that potentially evolved in tandem with each other. So that they kind of there's a bit of a gray area with researchers and musicologists in terms of um, whether speech was born out of music or whether they developed in tandem with each other, or whether I haven't heard too many people say that speech came before music. I actually think that before we had the sophistication of language, it is kind of it seems as though we communicated largely with sounds and non uh, I guess non-verbal um, communication.
I'm
But
just
there's yeah.
as you're speaking, not to interrupt you, I was just looking out my window because there's lots of birds out right now. And I was just thinking about what you're saying and going, huh, if we give those suckers enough time, are they going to develop the speech patterns?
Yeah, songbirds. Yeah. Hmm.
So your research suggests that the research suggests that speech either came in tandem with or after we had the ability to produce sound or music or whatever you want to call it, tones.
Hmm. Yeah.
But there's no research that really suggests that we develop speech first.
Uh, any kind of complex language abilities? No, I do not. I haven't come across anything suggesting that. No.
Isn't that something? So that suggests that if that's the case, that path of thinking suggests that it was more important for us to first develop the ability to just produce sounds, and then we could refine that with some sort of language. Not even language. What would you even call this?
Hmm.
But see, now that's got me thinking about on another path, which is just listening to you speak. I can hear when your voice goes up and down, and when I can hear the modulation when you speak. We don't just speak in one tone.
Hmm.
So maybe, and my thinking all of a sudden feels backwards about speech. Because I thought, well, wouldn't speech come before making sounds? But really, it actually makes perfect sense that sounds would come before speech, because all that speech seems to be, now that I'm consciously thinking about it, all that speech seems to be is the rapid application of sound combined with moving your mouth and tongue and airways in a certain way, right?
Yeah. No, totally. There are people, depending on how you look at it, but there are people who think even language itself is very musical in a lot of ways, in the way, just like you were mentioning, we decrease and increase volume, we'll increase pitch, lower pitch. There's there's a certain rhythm or cadence to the way we speak. There's silences. There's lots of things that suggest that speech is also kind of musical, but there has to be a line somewhere, right? So, and that's what a lot of researchers have tried to do is pinpoint, like, where is that line that we draw between speech and music.
Because so another thought that popped into my head, for some reason, again, maybe evolutionary, if you think about it, if we have the ability to just produce sounds, musical sounds, and that was enough to communicate, then we wouldn't really need language. And we don't sing to each other as our primary form of communication. We use spoken word, but yet the two kind of go hand. Well, you can speak when or you can at least put words to music. Okay, now my head is going in a million different directions, and it's like I've never thought about language and music in this way before. And
Cool. Okay.
And it kind of feels like I should have at some point. You know, I've been making sound come out of my mouth hole for the last 31 years.
Yeah.
It seems like a kind of important thing to know how it works, but God, that's fascinating.
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm loving the research I'm doing, and I hope, wow, if you find this interesting, I'm glad. I think you'll really like the book when it's complete.
Oh, this is a rabbit hole I could go down for days. Like now I just want to figure out the evolutionary, what came, like it feels obvious now thinking this through that the production of sound came first and then we figured out how to do language. But I mean, why we develop language, why that was more efficient than just making sounds. You know what? Actually, I'll ask you this. If you don't have the answer to this, this is fine. It might be outside the scope of musicality, but at what point did we go from just making sounds to actually bringing in spoken language? Like, at what point did that seem to make sense?
Oh, yes. Well, I know that in terms of the origins of music, I've heard that it's tens of thousands of years, right, that we've had music at least. I think they have evidence dating at least 30,000 years. Evidence of musical instruments. But as far as when speech became prevalent, no, I haven't come across much of that, unless I'm forgetting. I have a dense amount of notes.
So just doing a quick Google search, because I remembered while we're on the podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in front of a computer. I can do a quick Google search. Not to turn this into a Wikipedia learning adventure, but the results suggest that this is Wikipedia, so let's take it with a grain of salt. The results suggest that language first evolved around 50,000 to 150,000 years ago, which is around the time when modern Homo sapiens evolved.
Okay.
So 50 to 100. Now that's a big error range.
Yeah.
You know, that's plus or minus 100,000 years right there.
Okay. Wow.
So.
Yeah, that is 50 to 100,000.
Yeah.
And yeah, gosh.
And then just seeing another BBC article here, it suggests that the human voice may have gained its full vocal range at least 530,000 years ago.
Wow.
So half a million years ago, we had our full vocal range. I'll send you the link to this.
Let's
see if I can, there we go. Paste it into the chat there.
Let's see.
That is absolutely crazy. 500,000 years ago. Whoa, that's a huge gap though, if you think about it. That's a huge gap between getting our vocal range and speech. If you think 500,000 years ago we gained our full vocal range, but then we've only spoken for let's say at best 150,000 years. That's a 350,000 year gap in evolution between our vocal range and spoken word.
Yeah, that's massive. Yeah, I'm seeing
Whoa.
here 40,000 years. Yeah, so between 30 and 40,000 years old for earliest musical instruments. I find that to be a huge gap too, between the ability to speak and musical instruments.
Well, so this BBC article that I sent you, this will be, and I'll make sure this is in the show notes. This BBC article suggests that the earliest known musical instruments are 40,000 years old, which, oh man, this is okay. So, Let's Solve the Universe. I'm really liking this because we can go down knowledge rabbit holes that we couldn't go down before. Oh, we're introducing the internet component. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
But wow, so imagine that. There's a 350,000 year gap between gaining vocal range and gaining the ability, gaining spoken language, let's say, and that's in the best case scenario.
Yeah.
So that means that, and again, thinking about this being an advantage evolutionary, that means that the ability to just produce sound was that valuable, was super valuable for a long time. Because 500,000, that dates back to like Neanderthals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say I was just finishing reading that the BBC. Let me see here. How do I? Yeah, it's weird when you go that far back. It starts becoming like classifications start becoming difficult too, right? Because what do you classify, for example, as a musical instrument? What do you classify as speech versus music, right? It becomes very gray. So like is a rock is a rock that we pick up and bang against something like a wall, is that considered music, right?
That's true because it's it is something that produces sound. I mean, you can also make that argument for when we're talking about the first known instances of us using tools. It's okay. Well, what are we defining as a tool? What are we defining? And you're absolutely right. What do we define as speech? If it's like the speech that we have right now, well, we didn't have emojis 20 years ago. But we had hieroglyphic. We had hieroglyphs, right?
Mm.
So emojis are just kind of modern day hieroglyphs, it feels like sometimes.
That's interesting. I haven't thought of it like that.
But yeah, so maybe that's why we have such large error ranges when it comes to these values, like 50,000 to 150,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. That's a huge time frame.
That's a big gap. That's a big uncertainty gap. But I suppose again, it's like that's our best guess because it's not like we have YouTube that goes back that far. We can only go back and kind of guess from our own evolution, but it does suggest that for some reason just being able to produce sound was useful for survival, was useful for attracting a mate, was just useful from an evolutionary perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's
no, definitely.
And suddenly I'm seeing a huge link between the research you've uncovered and done on the musical faculties holding out for much longer in the human brain. Because that's, if you think about it now, like 500,000 years ago, we developed our full vocal range. Say at worst, 50,000 years ago, we developed spoken word. Like the spoken word component is really new in
Yeah.
in our evolution. Like, no wonder it goes first. We've had a lot of time to develop those deep pathways for the musical part.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, too, I don't know. I from the reading I've done, it seems like speech and music may have developed kind of there could have been an interplay between both, where one kind of they weren't mutually exclusive. They were kind of this entity that kind of grew together. I think the term that is referred to as is called musa language.
Musa
But it's
language.
yeah, it's a term that was coined by a researcher who saw that maybe they developed in tandem with each other. So yeah, these are just some of the evolutionary questions that I find pretty interesting, anthropological questions.
And these are the sorts of things that you're going to cover and answer in your book then, yes?
Yes, yeah. Well, just the tip of the iceberg, to be honest. But yeah, for sure.
Oh my God, that's going to be awesome. Do you have a working title for the book or not yet?
Uh, Not yet. It's I have a work in progress title, but I'll keep that secret for now.
That's okay. That's naming is the hardest part. That's what I've found. Like,
Yeah.
what do you call this thing? It's got to be. It's got to. That's the one part I think when I published the first book, I sweated over for a little while. I was like, what the hell do I call this thing? And then I was just like, oh, it's a password book, and I'm saying that we need to move beyond passwords. Oh, let's just call it Beyond Passwords. Done.
Easy enough.
Yeah, easy enough. It took like 2 days to figure that one out. I wish I get that 2 days back, but whatever. Life goes on. You learn. So, are you planning on self-publishing, or are you gonna get the big publishing houses to back you?
Haven't decided. Haven't really decided yet. I guess my first inclination is to see if there are any, small publishing houses that publish this particular kind of work that might be interested.
Right.
It's going to be geared, to the general public. I'm not writing it for, you're not going to need a PhD in anything. I want it to be accessible to as many people as possible. So it's a particular kind of book, but we'll see. If I'm open to either, really.
Either way, as long as it gets out there, like, I really, really want to read this book now. Holy crap. You have no idea how much I want to read this book.
Awesome. Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah. So I touch on basically to give people listening an idea of the kind of topics I cover, everything from musicology to neuroscience to anthropology and psychology, so kind of looking at the reasons why music is as helpful and powerful as it is to so many people.
Nice. Oh, that's going to be so awesome when it's done. And I hope, can I convince you to do an audiobook version as well?
Oh, maybe. I haven't thought of that.
Wouldn't that be cool? And, you've got your own musical backing tracks that you can put to it.
Oh, I love that.
Wouldn't that be fun?
That would actually be really cool. That's a great idea, Laz. Thank you.
That would be so awesome. Not only have you got the voice for it, but you've also got the music for it, and the two would be a perfect combination, man.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm gonna have to. If I use that idea, I'm gonna have to credit you.
Just make it happen. That's all the credit I need. If you make awesome things happen, I'm happy with that.
Cool.
So, man, I can't believe the hour has flown by.
Yeah, has it been an hour?
It has been an hour already. And unfortunately, I do have a hard stop like shortly. But I feel like we've just scratched the surface on a whole bunch of this stuff. I now want to go down a rabbit. We could go down rabbit holes on some of these other topics. Like, would you be interested in coming back on and we just take one of those topics and just go on a total Wikipedia internet learning adventure?
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do a deep dive on some of these topics for sure. Alex, where can people? On the live stream, I posted your Bandcamp URL. It is S as in Sierra, X as in X-ray, X as in X-ray, N as in November.bandcamp.com. Anywhere else where people can find you on the internets?
Yeah, I am on Facebook, Twitter, Alex and Ven. So it's most of my socials. So AlexAndVen. And just thinking, I'm on SoundCloud too. You can find me on SoundCloud. And I've got a website in the works, so stay tuned for that.
Awesome. So good. I'll make sure that those social medias get linked to in the show notes as well, so that you can find Alex on the internets. Oh my God! So next time we get together, or next time at least we get together online, we're going down a rabbit hole. You send me a bunch of topics, and we're gonna just like do some serious learning adventure time.
Let's do it. Hopefully some people will out there who are interested will really enjoy this. I did. I love this.
This was so much fun. I can't think of a better way to wrap up Friday. So, Mr. Alex Ven, thank you so much for coming back on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're going to go on a learning adventure soon. Dear listener, love you. We'll talk to you soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Wash your hands. Love y'all.